Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the greatest news network of all, Atomic Drama Alert. And here we are to deliver news to you. My name is Ellis the Narrator, and I'm here joined with the head of the Bambozzinis. Man, the myth, the legend himself, Alessandro.
Greetings.
This channel will help pump out any content related to Atomic, whether it be gang drama or perhaps some PD wars. We're here to hear people's opinions on the matters and we are here to interview Alessandro Bambozzini. So, Alessandro, let's start with our first question. How long have you been a member of Atomic RP?
Yeah, I joined a good while ago, probably almost a year from now. I joined in early July with my friend Tony Bambozzini, Sean Bambozzini, Donald Bambozzini, a few other guys. We were looking for a good RP server to do some dark RP factions. So we found this server, and I decided to do the. I wasn't the original leader. Tony was, but we decided to form a mafia based off of the Godfather, the Corleones, and named it the Bambozzini family. So I've been a good member for about a year. Almost about a year. Uh, yeah, pretty much.
Wow, that's good to hear. Now, second question. How long have you been the head of the Bambozzinis? You mentioned an old member. Tommy was his name, I'm pretty sure. Or
Tony.
Tony. My apologies, Tony. Uh, how long have you been the head of the Bambozzinis? Since his departure, I suppose?
Yeah, yeah, so he never really appointed me head. He kind of just, I think it was late August, he kind of just bailed out. Actually, late August, he was still around, but he was kind of dead, so I kind of logged on and kind of just took charge of things. And then in mid-September, he deleted the official server, he deleted everything except the gang. So I made my own gang. I got all my friends on, all the old Bambozzinis on, and we formed our own Bambozzini family. And so technically, it was still the Bambozzini family, just under me and under a new gang, new Discord server. But we were all convinced that Tony kind of just sailed off. I mean, as we said back in the day, he took a vacation to Sicily, retired, right? So I became the new head technically, and I've run the Bambozzini since then. And everyone in the Bambozzini has accepted me as the official leader. Not a single OG member has said that Tony is the real leader. Everyone has kind of assumed that I'm now the leader since then. Tony did try to do some drama over that. He tried assuming the position a few months ago and said I betrayed him. So I said, you know what, Tony, if everyone wants you back, we'll put you back in power. No big deal. Did a vote, and every single member said that we want Alessandro. So I said, okay, well, at least I can do for you, Tony, is I can make you like the second in command, and that's it. Tony said no, he wants full power. Civil War happened, and we basically won. Tony got kicked off the server. Um, Basically raided him almost every day. He lost the war, and since then I've been in power. So that's kind of how it ended. Didn't want to end that way, but if people want to cause problems, if they want to play things the nasty way, it is what it is. I didn't want to have Tony go down that way, but I did everything honorably. So I did what I could. No one wanted Tony in power, and I think it would have been worse if I had just given Tony the handle rather than doing things properly, right? So yeah, I think since late September officially, so about I don't know 8 to 9 months, I've been head of the Bambozzinis, so something like that. But before I was head, I was the consigliere. I was like the second in command, ish, third in command technically, but Tony saw me as a second right hand man, so I was always the one doing things. I was in charge of like political shit within the PD and stuff. But yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, I believe I heard of the war a little while ago. I heard that it was in terms of fighters and losses as well. Is that correct?
Yeah, it was a pretty toxic war towards the end. In the early days, it wasn't that bad. It was like we raided him, he raided us. We usually won most of the time. Actually, I think we won every raid in the early days. And then I think after a good week or two, it got really toxic. He was going around spreading some fake allegations, which I'll address later on, I think. But um, it got really toxic. Shit was being spewed back and forth. And Tony even admitted that he was in the wrong. He even admitted on camera that it was all one big role play thing and everything else. But it got really toxic. You were getting banned. Adelard got banned for like a month. So it was actually really toxic. But I mean, like I said earlier, things had to be done that way, right? I didn't do anything to him. I didn't make anything up about him or spit any bullshit myself. But they fought with fire, and we had to fight back with fire. So we continued raiding, and we continued trying to destroy their knockoff Bambozzini gang, and eventually got destroyed. So, did I want it
Yeah,
to
well,
happen?
it's
No, but oh well.
my apologies.
No,
Please
you're
go
good.
on.
No, that's it.
All right, well, it's good to know that the Bamboozis are in good hands.
Hmm.
Now, on to our third question of the day. What is your favorite memory of the Bamboozis?
Um, I would honestly say my favorite memories were back when I was under Tony, because Tony wasn't that bad of a leader. He was very strict. He was very military-like. He led things like an army. I mean, we have ranks in my Bamazzinis, but his Bamazzinis were like you had guards at the gates. You had two guys with Tommy guns at the gates, and he didn't even have the pads in the early days. You had to get checked in, and you had to verify like you're a real Bamazzini. And I remember even I would go in there, even though I was consigliere, like, hey, we need to verify you're the real Alessandro. So it was some really tough shit, and things worked really well. People liked it because it was very close knit. It was very unique, and it was just fun. Everyone wanted to be a part of it because back in the day, it was super strict, super organized, super hierarchy, and we still have that today, but it's a lot more lenient. It's a lot more better optics, I should say. But my favorite memory specifically during those days was probably when we were fighting the natives. We had this huge war with these guys called the natives. They were a bunch of guys that got the perma knives or whatever, and they would run around and they would quote unquote scalp our members, aka one him with a knife or whatever. And so we'd be walking around the city, and we were at war with these guys because back in the day you could do a gang war and everyone would be KOS or whatever, and they would be knifing us left and right. And so I remember like getting into the base and like looking outside the window, and like the natives were like doing this like Native American dance at their teepees and stuff, and it was a lot of fun. I remember getting a sniper rifle going through, and I'd have to like snipe the Native Americans from behind from like rooftops and these like barricades and shit. And it was like World War II, you're going out there with like World War II weapons and shit, and you're sniping them back and forth. You're getting behind cover. You had like little squads out there fighting each other. It was a lot of fun. Um, I would say that was my favorite memory. We put on the TVs. We put on the Godfather soundtrack. We put on Goodfellas soundtrack. We put on the Irishman soundtrack, and we just hang around, using fake Italian accents and whatnot. It was honestly a pretty good time. A lot of good nostalgia, but even though it's my favorite memory, I wouldn't say it was our best era. I'd say our best era is recently, but those were some damn good days. And I mean, like I said, I kind of miss it. Kind of don't really care because we're kind of having a better time now. But it's yeah.
I must say, I wish I would have been on the server at that time. It sounds like a very exciting thing to go through.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Now, I heard that Bamboozis are pretty good, like money and like defense wise. I mean, you've said so yourself. So, on the fourth question, what do you think the pick of the Bamazzinis were? Like for the entire family, what do you think the peak Bamazini name was?
I'd say right now, I'd say in this day and age, we're rallying about what 30 people at an average. The most you've ever gotten is like probably like 35, and that was a few weeks ago. But I log on, and there's like four Bamazini bases, four different parties on each server. We're really at a point where half of the server is at the very least loyal to the Bamazzinis, which has never been done before. And as a matter of fact, during the days of Tony, we were hated. Everyone hated us because Tony was like a madman. He was always going around with a minigun, you know, massacring people because they looked at him the wrong way. Under my Bamazzinis, we're a lot more uh, peaceful in the sense where we want to do good for the server. We want to make sure that everyone is happy. They're all having a good time. We're trying to do what is best. And so we're a lot more popular now. And not only that, but we have a lot more members. We're a lot more powerful, a lot more stronger than we've ever been before. And I log on every weekend or so. There's always a good 30 or so people. Before, during Tony's day, we got about 15, and I think in the early days of my reign, we only got about 10 people, and then it eventually got increased. I think by like late January, early February, thanks to Adelar, we were getting about 20 people, and it just kept on increasing. It's still increasing. We're now on different servers now. We're now in the 1980s Mafia RP and stuff, and so we've just been cruising along. We're just hitting W's left, right, center. Not a single gang can compete against us. It's gotten to the point where we're undefeatable. Even Wilkers has been trying to rally up a good amount of people to take us down. And so it really is a really good era for the Bambozzinis. And I'm very happy to say that even though we're the ones kind of in power here, we're here to do good. We're here to do what's best for the server. And I try to be as honorable as I can. So I really hope that the server is enjoying our presence, that they don't mind that we're kind of the ones running the streets these days. And, and I mean, that's the thing. People wonder, like, why is there no, like, opposition? It's because why oppose us? We're not out there trying to terrorize the city. I mean, we raid people, but let me put it this way. I mean, people can ally with us and they won't get raided, or they can pay us a small fee that's, like, less than, I don't know, $250,000, maybe even more less than that. You know what I mean? I think there's easy ways to befriend us, and I think that's kind of a big reason why people don't really care to oppose us. It's like we're not trying to terrorize a server. There's other gangs that did more or less dishonorable things, and they ended up being the bad guys, the villains, But the Bambozzinis, we're in it for the long run. We're all loyal. We're all here to make this shit work, and we're going to run as long as we can. If we can run it for a year, for 2 years, 3 years, for as long as we can until the server dies, then I mean that's a hell of an achievement. It's a legacy. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But I feel like that's kind of the agenda. It's just a big community of friends that are trying to prevail on this server, and I think inevitably it's going to succeed. Whether it's me doing it, whether it's them doing it, whether it's a new Don in charge by then, I don't really know. And at the end of the day, I just want what's best for the server, I want what's best for everyone. If that means downfall, then that means the end. But I don't think it'll ever come to that. I think everyone is quite loyal. They're quite happy with the Bambozzinis, and I don't think that the period of downfall will come anytime soon. So like I said earlier, I'd say the peak would be around this time.
That's great to know, man. I'm happy to hear that your little gang here is happily strolling along. And now you brought up like time frames and stuff. Like Bamboo is gonna be on for a long time. Now I happen to notice the Bamboozines do seem to be the biggest and most active gang on the Time RP, if not all of our Dark P as a whole. Now I must say, how long do you think you're gonna like? If you think you can hold on to the status for a long time, how long do you think you can hold on to it for?
Yeah.
At all.
I mean, I'm not like a psychic, but I could probably hold on to it for. We've lasted almost a good year now, so I'd say I give it another few years. But I mean, like I said, that depends on the player base, and if the player base is enjoying our presence, they're getting along, they're joining in on the pizza parties, they're making new friends, they're playing games, they're expanding, and all that. Then it could last. This could develop into like a huge community that expands beyond Gmod, for all I know. And if it does that, then it could last for
Decades?
years. It could last. It could last a long time. And when I say years, I don't know. I don't really know because it could go anywhere. If this becomes something that's huge, then it's in a sense it's undefeatable in the sense that it cannot really be destroyed, right? When you have almost 1,000 people participating and being active and being loyal, how do you destroy that bond when everyone is loyal, everyone is participating, everyone is trying to make this thing blow up? So I think that it's kind of a powerhouse, and loyalty is a weapon. Everyone is loyal, everyone wants to keep the Bambozzinis afloat, and that's just getting bigger and bigger and bigger. That's not going to stop. There's nothing stopping us because people don't want to stop. People don't want to see the Bambozzinis stop growing. And honestly, anyone that did have a problem with me, I've always addressed it. I've always said, "Oh, here's the issue. Here's this issue. How do we fix it?" So I think until there is an obstacle preventing the Bamazzinis from expanding, there's not going to be, you know, there's raids every now and then. There's people that will obviously oppose and talk shit, but that's not really an obstacle, is it? That's a few people that are probably jealous. They're probably mad because we raided them at one point. But if anyone had a genuine issue, um, I'd easily be able to resolve it because nothing is irresolvable. If someone commits RDM, you punish them. If someone commits any wrongdoing, they get punished, right? So I feel like there's never going to be a point where there cannot be a solution. So, um, so like I said earlier, maybe a few years, maybe a decade. That'd be my estimate. So
Well, I happen to notice that our guards have left. I believe we're getting raided right now. I'm sorry to interrupt you.
yeah, I think he dealt with them swiftly. So I think it'll be
All right,
fine.
well, that's good to know that we're in nice hands here in the studio. That's good. That's good to know. Let's see here. Now, I happen to notice how Atomic RP is currently having a little bit of a squeaker problem. Say the least. I happen to notice a lot of little kids on the server. Do you think this is problem starting to leak into the Bamzinis at all? Like, you're starting to have a squeaker problem of your own?
Yeah, see, the Fats, Tony, and a few other enemies from back in the day spewed the same issue, and they always blamed us for it. It's not like we have a portal going to like the children's hospital or something, and they're coming out of the Bamazzinis. These people making these allegations that we're responsible for the squeaker issue, for the child gang, and I mean, first of all, you can't even be younger than 13 to be on Discord. This has been addressed. So that's debunked. Second of all, most of the Bamazzinis are like, I think the average age is like 16. Third of all, what would they even define as a kid? I mean, I would define a kid as someone that's younger than,
I believe
you know,
squeakers are defined as I believe 10 to 14-year-olds from what I'm currently understanding in the gaming community.
okay. I don't
At
know.
least ones with high-pitched voices.
Okay. Well, yeah, I mean, I know that, but I think obviously, I think it's a little overblown. These allegations, I wouldn't even call it an allegation. I think it's straight up dumb. I think this whole thing, there's no water to it. You ask these guys, and they don't give you evidence, they don't give you anything. They just say, "Oh yeah, like there's a pedo issue because there's a bunch of squeakers running around," and it's like, what are you talking about, dude? Like, you don't make any sense. How does that address anything? These people are just trying to find ways to shit talk the Damazzinis, in my opinion. They don't have a good reason. They never will have a good reason. And they will try to find anything they can to use against us. So the minute someone talks some kind of shit, it'll be thrown around and it'll be believed because people want a reason to hate us. Because if there's a reason to hate us, then they can spew it around and make people hate us or whatever the plan is. Anyway, there's not very many. There's like one or two. There's Ballsack, and there's probably one other person. But these people aren't even allowed in the Discord. If there are any Bamazzinis that are tweakers, there is a policy that if you are under the age of 13, you cannot join the Discord. However, you are allowed to participate in the Bamazzini Mafia. But as far as I'm concerned, that's a very, very, very small statistic. There's almost 300, maybe more than that, Bamazzinis. And there's probably, what, 5 of these people running around? I think to say that the Bamazzini has a squeaker problem is, that's bullshit.
Yeah, to
Also, I
say it has a
think,
squeaker problem is like saying a cockroach in a gigantic mall is having a huge cockroach problem. It's a single roach.
yeah, and I think it's funny. People were saying that I was 12 at first, and I'm obviously not 12. And then
Yeah,
the
you
minute I
definitely don't
say
sound
that
like
I'm
that.
like, and then when I say that the console's actually full of like teenagers, well, old teens, people in between the ages of like 15 to like 19, they're like, oh, then there's a issue with, I'm not going to say the shit they say is so disgusting. I'm not going to say it live, but they don't really have any sort of logic. They just see shit and they say shit, and they just throw it around. But most of these have died out. These allegations have died out ever since Tony left, ever since the Fed. And most of these guys, like I said earlier, they've already retracted the allegations and said it was an ARPy thing, it was a war thing, it was just part of the game. And it's like, yeah, dumbass, because calling people predators over a Gmod war is definitely a massive, like, that's such a great roleplay event, guys. Isn't it's so dumb. I think they're kind of bullshitting when they say that, but you know what? I forgive them. I don't really care. Hasn't done much damage. That shit's died out. Only probably like 1% of people will probably talk about that stuff. But it still needs, like I said, it still needs to be addressed. I'm not here to ignore it because when shit gets said and it's not the truth, I'm gonna say the truth. Justice must be stored. I know that's kind of self-righteous of me, but I feel like justice is for everyone, and I feel like injustice, such as slander and lying, that has to be squashed. So here I am debunking those, and it really is a shame that people have to go that far. But you know what? I get it. They're afraid we're going to take over, that we're going to terrorize the server, and they're panicking and they're saying, oh, well, if we make up these rumors that are so bad and people believe it, then we'll take them down and there's no threat. That's their mindset. I can't blame them for that, but they got to grow some balls and talk to me. They can't be sitting in the corner being paranoid. They got to come to me, talk to me about whatever bullshit they're spewing, and I'll address it. I don't know. That's my
Yeah.
take on it, though.
Earlier, I now, yeah, I understand that people are gonna be spewing stuff on the internet. I'm afraid that's just how the internet is. Now, earlier you mentioned something along the lines of FETs. Who are these so-called FETs
Yeah, the
you
Feds
speak
were
of?
one of our many enemies. They came right before Tony came. They were the first enemy of ours that was toxic. Every enemy before the Feds were very honorable. We usually had gang wars, raid wars. It went back and forth. It never went into a pathway that was like spewing lies that were outrageous. The Feds started this whole thing. It started as a squeaker thing, and eventually it evolved into this like pedo thing where that we're trying to like brainwash. They're not. I don't even know what terminology they use. I don't know, it was brainwash or groom or something about getting, targeting kids to join the Bambazzinis or something dumb like that. And I remember saying, I'm like, dude, if anything, we're trying to prevent them from joining because of how annoying they are. Like, you got to be shitting me. Like, yeah, we obviously it's like yeah, man, we want squeakers to be clogging up the VC with a bunch of
Among Us
high pitched
memes and
voices.
Fortnite
Yeah,
stuff.
it's so dumb. The fact they would think that we want these people in the group, like, what's the logic behind that? But yeah, the Fets were the first to make up this kind of shit. They got wrecked in the war. They were like the first official anti-Bambazzini thing. They got like 5 people online. We got like 30 online, raided their base, and like totally destroyed them. It got so bad they went crying to Wilkers, and Wilkers had to step in because we were apparently like harassing them in terms of like constantly raiding them or like spawn raiding them. Like we'd raid them every like 10 minutes or something. Like it was,
Doesn't
they got their asses handed them so badly that they just couldn't, like, they didn't want to do the war anymore. I'm like, well, here's the thing. I said, I don't have to do the war, but you got to stop with these stupid allegations that make no sense. And he said the same thing. He's like, oh, well, it's just a role play thing. I don't think you're any of these. You're a good person. It's like, okay, dude, like, really? So now he plays Rust. He's chill. I think he's actually like kind of an unofficial ally now. He hangs around, but that was the Fat War. Lasted very shortly. It lasted like a few weeks, but I mean, when the war, like when the heat built up and we had like our first battles, it lasted very short. Like it was just like a few raids and they were done.
well, it's
So,
good to know it didn't last that long. Of course,
yep,
no one really wants any toxicity anywhere, really.
yeah, sure.
Now,
We're
I've
lovers
heard of this
here.
game. Oh, my apologies. What were you saying?
No, I'm just saying we're lovers here. We're not haters here. We're lovers here. We love everyone.
Of course. That's good to know. It's really good to know. Now, yeah, I heard of this gang recently called the Wilkers. Do you believe that they will become a threat to the Bambazinis? Like, decide to point the gun in the wrong direction, to say the least.
Yeah. See, Wilkers, we have like this hate love relationship where usually when the enemy gang cries about us, there's always this big group chat and trying to get him in the middle to resolve it. And usually it's like he goes against us, And then I talked to him, and he's like, "Oh yeah, actually they're innocent." So it's kind of this wishy-washy thing. Or another instance is we had an issue where apparently there is some shit being talked about the Bamazzinis in the staff chat, and he was initiating it. I'm not going to get into that. It's kind of private. You're not really allowed to talk about what goes on in those meetings anyway. But there is some shit going on where apparently there is like a faction in the staff against the Bambazzinis, and apparently he was influencing it, and he was like saying how we're gonna like take over the server and whatnot. I don't know if these are true or not, but it's kind of this hate love relationship where it's like we want to be helping the server, but Wilkers is kind of like in the middle because he doesn't know me that well. I mean, it's understandable. It's like
Like
you
a
know, I
like
cannot
a
get
little
anyone.
like a little stopper, basically. Is what you're saying?
Yeah, yeah. So
Little speed bump, trying to slow you down a little bit.
yeah, so we've talked to Wilkers. Wilkers says he likes how we're out there colonizing other servers. We're trying to expand. We're trying because it's like we're kind of advertising the server by doing this basically. But we talked to him about this toxic staff peer pressure bullshit, and I think after one of the last big, I think it was after Shadow Fanboy got banned. He was like the last like resistant, like hardcore anti-Bamazini guy on the server. I think Wilkers formed the gang because every other gang that tried fighting me, it just like it went nowhere. Totally got shit fested on. So I think Wilkers started a gang to kind of counter that, and I think doing that was actually better because he could channel all that energy into the gang and not like make it a staff issue or anything. We had some drama when we were fighting Tony, where apparently uh, Adler got banned for being biased, which I mean that's disputable, but you know it's whatever. Um, so that's kind of why he did the whole gang thing. Do I think it's going to become a competition where it's going to become better than us or it's going to destroy us? No. He's joked about saying, like, every now and then he'll say, this is the downfall of the Bamazzinis because, like, let's say, like, a terrorist bombed, like, 30 of us, or let's say there's an argument or whatever. He will always joke about that. But I don't think it'll ever come to become that. I think Wilgers is very influential. I think he could use that against us. I don't think it will become a huge threat, though. I don't think it will ever become that because I wouldn't say that I'm like better than him, but you know, winning these wars is more about being defensive. If you can defend your bases and you can defend your territory and what you own, then you can win any war. Offenses are just bonuses. If you can win an offensive war, then I mean that's bonus. But really these Gmod wars are all about trying to maintain your supply. If you can make money without it being affected, then you can live as long as you want. So I don't think Wilkers will change that. In terms of an actual war, where it'll go, uh, I honestly don't know what he can do with his power. I heard he's logged on a few times in the past few weeks, maybe last month, but he hasn't done much. Him and Nubu log on, make some money, log off. So I think it's the calm before the storm. So for all I know, he could log on and rally like 100 people against us, and it'll be like this huge, like 30 versus 60, huge ass war, KOS, bombs left and right blazing. I think that'd be pretty epic, actually. I wouldn't mind kind of a war like that. I think that'd be a good challenge for the Bamazzinis, but as long as it doesn't evolve into something toxic or where it gets to the point where we have to leave the server, I'd be fine. And but I don't think that they will become an essential threat. There's other servers, there's other ways of getting around these issues. I mean, worst case scenario, we'll just like populate server 4 if like server 1 to 2 are like, you know, total Wilkers control, right? So, do I think it could result in us losing some gains? Yeah, but I don't think it will ever result in total capitulation. I think we will, if it ever comes to this massive war with the Wilkers gang, we'll survive. We'll get through it. I don't underestimate Wilkers, but I don't think it will ever be a toxic thing. So, I mean, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what they're capable of doing. At the end of the day, he's just the community director. He just directs the community around. He's just kind of in charge of the staff. So I don't think he has very much experience on the field of
I
like
understand
commanding
that.
armies. So I think I don't know.
Well, it's good to know that there won't really be that much competition, to say the least. Now, Back to Tony. See, how did you meet him, and how did you meet Tony, and how did everything go before the Bambozzinis?
Oh boy. Oh boy. So I think the biggest thing Tony had on his side was that he had known me for 4 years. Someone even said he knew me personally. No, he lives across another country from me. Well, he lives across the continent technically, but anyway. No, I never knew him personally. I knew him online, but we used to play this game when we were both teens, young teens, called Roblox. And I mean, it's kind of embarrassing because it's like being
Yeah,
known
nobody really.
for a Roblox legacy is not like the most braggable
Yeah,
thing.
it's
That's why.
not exactly the thing to brag about, is it?
But what is to brag about is that I had like the most largest Roblox, not World War II, like war group empire. Like I had like the largest dynasty. I was rallying hundreds of people and like conquering entire groups. But I won't get into that. What I will get into is I knew Tony a long time ago. We were both in this Japanese group on Roblox, World War II Japanese. He was like a general. I was like an officer under him, and we became best friends. He like overthrew the emperor of the group and like tried doing his own thing, and it failed. But I supported him against the emperor, and like we became best friends after. I made my own group. He joined. He was like my right hand man, and like I don't know. For a long time, we got along really well, and then I kind of betrayed him, but not really.
Uh-oh.
He got into a civil war with another guy who was also trying to become my right hand man. He lost the civil war, and this is where I kind of betrayed him. And so I said, "Here's the deal." I said, "If this new right hand man guy does well for the next month and like does better than you, I'll keep him. If he does worse than you, then I'll bring you back." And this was the deal. What happened is Tony went against the deal and made an alt account, logged into my group and everything, and tried whenever we had like a battle or like a raid or whatever, he would make my new guy look bad, which was technically cheating because I was trying to make him like mess up so we can so I kind of fired Tony, and then he came back a year later. We did some more stuff. We made a group together called Japan. I was like in charge of like the police. He was in charge of the army. It went really well. And then there was a civil war between the people of Japan and the army. So I had made my own political party, which was like this based. Just so everyone knows, I'm not a socialist, but in the video game, I made a socialist party where we like revolted against like the bourgeoisie, and he was like the premier and everything, and like I basically overthrew him. And so when we overthrew him, he took over all the group functions using like admin or whatever. He basically, again, cheated his way through and abused and everything. And so we had another falling out. And then eventually I retired from Roblox. And when I retired, Tony reached out. I reached out to Tony. We played a game of Hearts of Iron 4. And then we were bonding, I guess. And like we kind of just forgave each other for everything and said, let's move on. We went on Gmod, and after we went on Gmod, we tried doing a. This was his idea. He wanted to do like a redneck faction, like a bunch of like Southern sympathizers trying to like restore the Confederacy on some Mexican border roleplay server on Gmod. Weird idea, and it didn't go very well. We got like 10 people. We went into like this building or whatever, made our base, and then like the president of the USA in the game got pissed at us, called in like the entire army, like 30 people, and like raided our base and like basically like raided us to the point we couldn't play the game. So we logged off for the night, logged on to Dark RP or Atomic RP the next day, and that's when it all began. I said, "Hey
That's
Tony, what if we did a uh, a mafia based off of the Corleone family?" And then we decided on doing the Bambozzini family. And that's where it all began. So, yeah, my origin story is actually a lot more longer. I spent like freaking 6 years grinding a Roblox empire, and then I retired because it was just dying. It's just a dying, broken game. And I came to Gmod, and here I am. But I want to compare this to my Roblox thing because on Roblox I was online like every day doing shit. On here I kind of I'm more relaxed. I log on, I make some in-game money, log off. That's all I'm doing. But I mean, it is still kind of like an empire. It's still kind of like running a big empire, a big group, a big dynasty, and we're kind of maintaining the power. So it's the same thing, a little different, but uh, that's how I knew Tony. And unfortunately, I knew him for like since very late 2018.
Hmm.
So about
Pretty long
three,
friendship.
3 to 4 years I've known Tony. But I wouldn't say that his word against me is credible because we've had a lot of falling outs. We've had a lot of conflicts, and it wasn't like for 4 years we were talking. We had a lot of moments where we blocked each other, where we backstabbed each other. It was a very unstable friendship, but we had a lot of good moments in that friendship too. So I couldn't say it was a bad friendship, but I can't say it was like an honest friendship either.
Of
So I
course,
mean that's kind of that.
more like an let's say a what's the word? Give me a second. What's the word? Accomplice.
Yeah, sure, something like that. But that's how I knew Tony. It's just how Tony operates. He's an arrogant guy. He doesn't like working under me, not anymore. He likes doing his own thing, which I mean I was fine with back then. But when you give up your legacy to someone else and you just disappear out of nowhere, it's like it's one thing if he like spent 5 years working on this thing and then he like retired and gave it to me voluntarily and then came back and like asked for it back. But when you abandon something you worked on out of nowhere, come back a year later, and I built up 90% of what he built, it's I wouldn't say it was a betrayal. I'd say he betrayed us, and then he tried to betray me. And as a matter of fact, this was never said to anyone, but this was kept in private. But also, when he was going to take power, his plan was to actually remove me because he felt too threatened by me that I was going to like overthrow him or that I was going to like have a lot of power and authority. So
Wow. Talk
to
about a
say,
backstab.
oh yeah, to say that I backstabbed him, I mean he was going to backstab me if I gave him the Bambozzinis back. So I don't know, man. I mean,
I mean,
so
the backstabber becomes the backstabbed, I suppose.
yeah. So and then someone even argued I didn't even backstab him. Some would argue that he didn't do his job and I replaced him. And
Hmm.
I think in that world, everyone's expendable. So if someone fails at their job and I need someone else to do the job, I mean that will happen. It just happens. So I wouldn't say I backstabbed him, but and he cheated his way in the competition. He cheated in the competition. So I
There's
don't know
no
if I'd
room for
say,
cheaters.
but yeah. So it is what it is, though. So that's my legacy, that's my origins, and that is my story as Alessandro Bambozzini.
That's good to hear. Now, as a final question, as a little ender offer, how do you feel about your top-ranking members of the NBA? Like, who's the greatest? Do you think? Like, a top-ranking and hardworking.
Hardworking, top-rated members. I mean, I'm not on enough to know, but I mean, I think Adelard has done the bulk of the work. I mean, he's my consigliere. Consigliere to me is like my top general, my top marshal. I mean, this guy arguably did most of the work while I was kind of gone. Because after, like, I think it was after November, like right after Thanksgiving, I kind of just died. Like, I kind of just didn't log on for like 4 months, 3 months. And Adelard, I think, was like a capo, some kind of high rank, and he was just kind of carrying everything. I logged on maybe once or twice after Thanksgiving before I officially came back in like early February, and he kind of just carried everything, you know. And as we both say, I mean, we kind of need each other. When he was banned, it was a big blow. We went from like 35 to, well, at the time we were rallying like what 25, 30. Went from like 30 people to like 15. So at least half of the people weren't there, and it was like, damn. So Adelard has a massive influence, massive effect. He's very competent. He does a lot of other stuff with me. He does gunpowder and steel with me. I think if he's not an admin in my Vibe tribe, I'll make him admin later actually. But he's just a very competent, loyal man. He's done his job, and Definitely, I'd say he's my top worker. He kind of just knows when I need him. He organizes things. He does what he's told, and when I'm not telling him what to do, he's still doing work. He's always on the move, always being productive. He's a hard worker, and it's good to have him around. I have to say that what really makes the Bambazzinis is the community. I think I have a good console, a good squad of people in my upper inner console, and they're all great people. Um, all of them are very loyal. They're all very competent, and they just do their job naturally. There's not much I need to do. You know, I do log on. I contribute however I can as the Don, but I think it's fair to say that without a lot of these people, it'd be hard to call this. It'd be hard to have what we have today. I mean, that's all I'll say. It takes brotherhood, it takes loyalty, and I hope that loyalty never dies off. I think people will eventually realize, if they haven't already, that the only way any of this has worked is loyalty. We have been through thick and thin. When Tony betrayed me, everyone, and I mean everyone, remained loyal. Not a single Bamazzini, to my knowledge, swapped sides. And it could have gone way worse. If I was not as charismatic, competent, good as I am, there would have been a big split, and it would have been a much longer, terrible civil war. But everyone in the Bamazzinis, as far as I'm concerned, their loyalty is to this family, and that's hopefully never going to change. And probably isn't, because people. Well, I mean, first, there's not even another mafia that can compete. But even if there was, I mean, it's ride or die. These are all ride or die people, and they understand that so long as they're loyal to this mafia, to this gang, this in-game Gmod community, this thing will survive. This thing will live on, and most of all, it will prevail over anything it will come across. And I think that's the best take of it all. There's no other take to it than that. So that is the ultimatum. That is the destiny of the Bambazzini family. So it's up to the player base. If they all betray, then this legacy dies off, and it was all just one big waste of time. But if they maintain their loyalty, their relentless efforts, and their ability to prevail against all odds, then this legacy will live on so long as they wish. It is ultimately in their hands at the end of the day. I'm here to lead them, guide them, do what I must. But at the end of the day, we're all expendable. Even I am expendable. Even I will one day die off, just like Tony did, and someone else will take the reins and continue what I started. Hopefully, that lasts a very long time. So, yeah, based in red pill. Let's go. That's my take, though. So,
Alrighty, that's all the questions we have for today. Thank you for joining us, Alessandro.
no problem. My pleasure.
And this will be today. This will be the end of today's video and the debut of Atomic Drama Alert. We'll be making new videos weekly, and we all know the drama will always been rolling in. Thank you for watching, and I hope you have a good day and a good RP.